CM Punk's return at Survivor Series brought another level of excitement to the WWE product. His promos, his presence, and it was one of the biggest moments in recent memory. And WWE had no problem in telling us that the big match for Punk was a battle against Seth Rollins. Both men share similarities in their rise to the top and their success. ROH, very outspoken and hard-headed. Money in the Bank cash-in. There's a lot with that story, and coupled with their problems over the last few years, at least from Rollins' position, it makes sense for them to feud and have a match at WrestleMania. The prospects and potential of this feud are too big to ignore. However, Seth Rollins has come up with an injury and his status for WrestleMania is somewhat doubtful. The expectation is that he's coming back soon, but that's most likely changed plans for the WrestleMania match. I think CM Punk was supposed to win the Rumble, and since Seth wasn't around, it was better to wait until the Chamber to start their feud, since he would be close to ready, and they could go all out with a 4-week build. So seeing Cody win the match after mentioning these things makes sense. During the match, Punk seemed tired and exhausted as time went on. There was even one point where Drew hit him with a Future Shock DDT and he looked hurt. I thought he was injured, but he fought through it. Turns out that spot did hurt him, and if the reports from Pro Wrestling Insider are believed, CM Punk suffered a torn tricep. That spot stood out to me, and I'm not on some LeBron James lying type stuff. No, it was just a small thought. Punk's dealt with injuries over the last 2 years, and it gets worse and worse for him, which is unfortunate. This man was back to try and regain some of that fire he had and end his WWE run on a good note. Now there's a possibility of him waiting for 4 to 6 months, possibly to return. It poses the question of, is Punk done? Can his body handle another injury? Because he definitely has the passion for it. He has the heart, but maybe he's at a point where his body is telling him that it's over. That's a tough thought in itself and makes you wonder, how do these wrestlers and sports players go through these tough rehabilitation processes without losing that passion and interest? Especially when it comes to somebody like CM Punk. It's a struggle to get back, let alone get back to that level you had previously. His status for WrestleMania is doubtful and a spot on the card is already big, but Punk was most likely going to main event the first night of the show, which makes things worse. WWE though has options if the Second City Saint can't make it to the big event. Gunther. The ring general has left a path of destruction upon his debut on the main roster. He's turned the Intercontinental Championship into a coveted title, a title that's considered sacred for the first time in several years. What I like about Gunther is that he's a wrestler that fits in almost every era. He holds himself to a high standard and has the strong combination of discipline and consistency. He has that final boss element to him which a lot of people were interested in seeing on the main roster. He's done very well for himself and is the best wrestler in WWE right now. Why should he face Seth Rollins? He has that credibility built in over the last year. Seth Rollins' story of having him destroy himself over the last few months needs a conclusion. Gunther could be the best ending for Rollins. He's the toughest challenge in storyline, the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion of all time, stepping up to challenge the broken champion who has to constantly tell himself that he isn't hurt. Will Rollins triumph this big challenge or fall victim to the ring general? Gunther is most likely winning the title this year. It's obvious, but I'm sure if this match happened, it would be good and provide Rollins one of his best matches of his title reign. Drew McIntyre. The former WWE champion's had a tough time since 2020. It always feels like he's close to the title, but never ever actually won it again. His story is deep and has some personal hatred rooted towards those that benefit from doing wrong. In Drew's mind, he isn't wrong for feeling the way he does. The only problem with this match, though, is that it doesn't feel like a big WrestleMania match, and the reason why is they just faced off a couple of weeks ago. So Drew is most likely not in the match unless it's a triple threat or a fatal 4-way. Sami Zayn. The underdog from the underground, one of the best wrestlers last year. Zayn's face turn has brought out the very best in him, and a world title run is not out of the question. What makes Zayn a strong option? He has that connection with the fans that few on the roster have and a feel-good story. The problem with this is similar to Drew, it doesn't have that WrestleMania feeling. It sounds more like a SummerSlam match because both men are faces. In Punk's case, he's too good of a villain even while being a babyface. So this match is better off happening later. I'm sure if it actually did, it would be great, but it doesn't sound that big. Like if it was Roman Reigns versus Sami Zayn, that sounds big because of not only their past, but the fact that Roman Reigns is an unstoppable force going up against a scrappy underdog. There's other talent on the roster such as Damian Priest or Finn Balor, but I doubt they're getting a title match. Balor does have the story with Rollins, but the fans wouldn't really care, especially for a WrestleMania match. Priest even more so probably. You could do a fatal 4-way with those 4 men, Seth Rollins, Gunther, Drew McIntyre, and Sami Zayn, triple threat combination, whatever. But no matter what they do, none of those matches are going to feel as big as CM Punk versus Seth Rollins. There is a wild card. They're not going to do it, obviously, but I want to mention Jey Uso. He doesn't have a better chance of going there. I just wanted to mention him as a name. He has a lot of fan support, is a fresh challenger in the grand scheme of things. I know he challenged a few months ago, but I consider him fresh because of his new singles push recently. I think it would be a cool story, but it's too soon. Other than that, yeah, those are the guys that could face Seth Rollins at WrestleMania. They're not going to randomly bring in Randy Orton or Kevin Owens from SmackDown. At least that's what I think. The Night 1 main event is probably probably going to be Rhea Ripley versus Becky Lynch if this is the case, or maybe even Bayley versus Io Sky. We'll see, but yeah, those are the challengers that could take Punk's spot if he can't make it to WrestleMania. I wish him the best, you know, because injuries are never a good thing. They're always tough to recover from. They hurt you mentally. We've seen that a lot with wrestlers and sports players. It hurts them a lot mentally, and it's tough for them to overcome their problems. So yeah. Alright, what do you guys think is going to face Seth Rollins at WrestleMania? Please comment down below, and that's it for this video. Make sure you hit the GTS on the like button and perhaps the curb stomp on the subscribe button. Peace. I'm out.